And I'm going to be talking about, for 10 minutes, about the power of our green spaces, the power of how we use the land and how we bring this to life, and particularly how that then converts into our delivery over the next 5 years. Before we start, I just want you to think about this particular strategy in the lifetime of an organisation, in the lifetime of the planet. Because, and when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about everything in an ecological context. So oak trees take between 90 and 100 years to mature, don't they? It takes them a long time to get to maturity, and they have an even longer life cycle. And in terms of the Earth Trust, we're 40 years old. So in an oak tree context, we're not even part way through to maturity. So we're still growing as an organisation. And I think the nice connection between ecological systems and the Earth Trust is that not only are we maturing and growing, but every part of this is contributing to the whole. So what's below ground, the root systems, the fungi systems that are below the ground, the whole of the trunk that's supporting the whole organisation or the whole tree is providing a really vital function. And not only that, trees can survive on their own, but actually they communicate with other trees and other vegetation around them. And it's that connectivity, those partnerships, those synergies with the world around them that makes them so special. So when we're talking about a 5-year strategy, we're actually talking about a particular period in time of the evolution and the development of an organisation. That's a scary prospect, isn't it? So let's bring us right to here and now. This week is COP27. So world leaders are getting together to decide on the future of our planet, another scary prospect. And what we're here to do as an organisation is to connect people with the environment, but we're connecting people to the environment with purpose. We're connecting people to the environment in order that we can inspire those people to address the climate change challenges that we're facing, the biodiversity crises that we're facing, and also the well-being, health and well-being crisis that we're facing. So we're highly relevant as an organisation. We might be small, we might be operating on a footprint within Oxfordshire, but we can be hugely influential, because it isn't just what we do here, it's how we influence. Think of the tree. It's how we influence the world around us, and how we can think differently here that will enable other people to learn from that, but also we can learn from other people in order to grow. So we have our strategy. It is called Connecting Communities for Change, because we need to grow the number of people and their connection with the environment. It isn't just about us. It isn't just about our green spaces. It's about how we can influence others and how we can grow as communities to make change happen. So this slide is to show you that we have thought within a 5-year period about what we need to do, what we need to deliver, what we need to influence. And we have developed a timeline of those items from this, which is the first year. This is also the real first year from COVID recovery. And I think we have to remember that this is a really difficult year for lots of people and for organisations that are trying to recover from 2 years in quite a cold space. So we have gone through the things that we think we should be doing. We have mapped those. We are looking for a place that has greater confidence in our financial sustainability. And so these are 5 quite critical years, but in a whole lifetime, it's a moment. What we're talking about today, particularly, is land management. It's about land use and land management. You know, the organisation has lots of tentacles in lots of different areas. So please bear in mind that although we're talking about one element in detail today, there will be other parts of this conversation that will be opened up to you and you'll be part of in the next 12 months. So just to highlight, within our strategy, the big change from one of the big changes from the previous strategy was the introduction of influence. So what we demonstrate, how we engage, but particularly how we take that learning of demonstration, how we take the learning around engaging more people in the environment, and then how we project that and how we influence so that we have more green spaces and more people accessing green spaces close to where they live and work is crucially important. Looking at it through the land management lens, please do have a look at the strategy. There are elements such as we need a growing number of green spaces, accessible natural green spaces. We need to utilize those green spaces so that we are demonstrating nature-based solutions, either on a small scale or a larger scale. I'm just pulling stuff out that's relevant for this afternoon. We need to be thinking about and articulating green space standards in order to influence for more green space. So what we're not doing today is to touch upon, in any significant degree, on engagement. And again, I'm doing a context setting piece for you so that you can then do the deep dive into the food and farming strategy and the farm ops plan. So you will be aware, because we've spoken about it for at least 10 years, that there are ANC standards, or accessible natural green space standards, and they are built in a very loose way into the planning system. And what they say is a person needs to have 1-2 hectare green space within 300 meters of their home. So that's a small green space within 300 meters. 20 hectares within 2 kilometers, 100 hectare green space within 5 kilometers, and a 500 hectare green space within 10 kilometers. And just to let you know, the farm, which is what we're talking about today, is the largest. It's the 500 hectare space within 10 kilometers. And if you look over here on this map, you might say, Jane, we've got loads of access to green space. What are you worried about? Well, actually, if you look at the green space standards mapped in the southeast, and you look at the number of households that are accessible with no access to accessible natural green space standards, red and pink is bad, green is good. This is Oxfordshire. So when you look at us in this particular county, in context of the southeast, we've got a problem. I then want to bring us forward a large number of years, which is more relevant. This is work that TVERC have done more recently, and now look at the Oxfordshire view. So the map on the left-hand side, sorry, I'm jumping around a bit, but this map on the left-hand side is the area of Oxfordshire that's not meeting the requirement for at least 100 hectare site within 5 kilometres. This is the area of Oxfordshire where, if you live in that area, you do not have access to 1 hectare site within 5 kilometres of where you live. Jumping over onto that side, that's the area of Oxfordshire, people that live in Oxfordshire that have where no ANC standards are met, no accessible natural green space standards are met. Okay, I'm trying to get you to think about land use in terms of accessible natural green space first. Now, if you remember those maps, and now we look at the land cover of Oxfordshire, I want to draw your attention to just how, which you already know, just how much of a farming county this is. So the majority of Oxfordshire is arable, improved grassland, semi-improved grassland, with some woodland, okay? And the grey areas are the built-up areas. So if you think about the previous maps I showed you, where it was difficult to access green space, and now we look at farmland, if all that farmland was accessible and probably more natural, then we would be quite quickly resolving that access to natural green space standards. I just wanted to give you a different frame for what we're looking at today. So in terms of the diversity of our green spaces, we have one large area of green space that fits within the 500 hectare category, and then we've got several smaller green spaces that we call our community reserves, that are closer to where people live, big areas of population, close to where people live and work. And it's that diversity of green space and that diversity of use that's really important for us as an organisation when we're demonstrating and when we're influencing. So I'm going to start with the influence. What should we be looking at when we're talking about land use and our green spaces? Well, in terms of our green spaces, they need to be rich in nature. They don't necessarily need to be rich in nature when we first start looking after them, but we need to be converting those spaces into nature-rich spaces. We need to be also building nature in to where people live and work. So it is no longer good enough in a climate context to have lots of green spaces which are a long way from where people live and work, both in terms of the travel, but also in terms of their own engagement and connectivity. And in terms of the climate, because we're in a week of COP27, we should be looking at farming using less carbon, locking up carbon, and particularly working on nature-based solutions that demonstrate climate change. In terms of engaging people with those green spaces, we need to be thinking about and working with visitors to those green spaces. Those are the people that use our green spaces and all green spaces more frequently. And here, of course, we do programs of events, and we're particularly moving into a space in our strategy when we're encouraging, including, and really focusing on diversity inclusion, not just within the organisation, top to bottom within the organisation, end to end within the organisation, but also in terms of people who are accessing and engaging with green space and the environment. In terms of our environmental education and our connectivity with young people, we have a vibrant program here. We've always had a vibrant program here, and we've always taken that program out into communities, and we need to be doing more of that. And in a land context, we should be, and I know we are, beginning to network across the farming community with other landowners, not only to understand the challenges, but also to encourage that conversation, which is going to lead to greater learning. And finally, on the demonstration, and our green spaces are our jewels in our crown. They are amazing. They're not necessarily how we want them to be in 5 years' time. We've got a lot of work to do, but they are the jewels in our crown. They are the powerful ways that we can connect people with the environment. So we should be using our green spaces and really working in partnerships and networking with others. And we should be using our green spaces to model the future that we want to see. And that future also has to be financially sustainable, because if we want other organisations to be caring for green spaces and to have more green spaces, there has to be a financial element to those. Because I know we all think that, or I know some people think that green spaces and the environment comes for free, but it doesn't, as you all know.